Hey there, Heather Ho, there's Jeff Cutter Top. I welcome you to yet another Cutter Top 10 Degrassi video. And today we're going to be looking at the top 10 Degrassi villains of Season 4. And even though I have done many top 10s on the Rick Murray storyline in Season 4, as I'm battling a cold, this isn't the case. The case is for all of Season 4, because Season 4 wasn't just about Rick coming back to the school and causing havoc and him dying. No, there was plot lines like Emma's glow up, ruining her in a sense, and her need for a boyfriend and friends and all that. There's Marco with the blood drive problem that Hatzelackles didn't help him out with. Um, the Evan Smith episodes did not really have anything to do with the Rick situation. They were big season for Craig being bipolar and all that. So yeah, there was a lot of things in season 4 that were a lot different. So anyhow, I asked the Reddit community to post, I did a post about how season 4 seemed to have the most villains within the season and all that. Because when I did my MVPs and LVPs, most valuable, least valuable player, there were a lot of villains and all that. And season 4, I thought, had a massive amount of villains. So we're gonna look at 10 villains in season 4, generally in season 4. And yes, you know who is definitely going to be number 1, because why wouldn't he be? But anyway, I actually came up with a poll with 6 options for, who's number 1, and then the next 6 people will be from 2 to 7. There was one who did not get a vote at all in the whole situation. So yeah, one person didn't get a vote. I am going. Now my question is, what do I do? Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, number 10. So people 8, 9, 10 didn't make. Well, anyway, number 10 is Caitlin. Caitlin, to me, to some people say she's a villain in season 4, especially what she did in the Kevin Smith situation. So Caitlin was away in Africa and then came back just in time to get into the Rick Murray storyline when she finds out that Joey's house is for sale. So she goes by Sydney's house, Sydney's place of work, because Sydney's a real estate worker, and buys the house. Decides to buy Joy's house and basically help him stay in business, and he wouldn't have to move out and lose his business. So that's great. Caitlin hangs around the house, helps out quite a bit, and does well. But unfortunately, the Kevin Smith episodes, the final 2 episodes, which I refuse to watch because they're stupid as fuck, ends up being that Caitlin has a thing for Kevin Smith. Of course, Kevin Smith in real life had a crush on Stacey Matician, who played Caitlin, and so she was with him and all that. Joy's upset because, Caitlin tells Craig to go to London with Ashley. As much as Craig has done some bad stuff in season 4, I don't think he's a villain. I think he was just hit hard by his bipolar issues. And then, of course, Caitlin tells Joey, if it weren't for me, you'd be out on the streets. I mean, I get it. I understand that. But to me, she sounds villainous. It didn't work out. Joey ended up leaving for Calgary anyway. Yeah, the Joey-Caitlin relationship should have stayed. Number 9 is Alex. Alex was actually in that poll from 1 to 6. That poll, but then she didn't get a vote. I gotta put her down. I put her at number 9 because number 7 and 8 actually are, more involved. Alex, yes. She was a villain for how she was one of the last 3 people to really push it to Rick and all that. And all that. She wanted to confess her guilt to people about the whole situation, but basically Jay told her not to. And Alex could have easily told somebody. Heck, even with the gonorrhea outbreak, she should have just basically blasted Jay, saying, you know what, you gave me gonorrhea, let's see you get out of this one. And she would tell everyone about his role in the Rick situation with the paint and feathers. But then again, she would probably have had to incriminate herself, so she was not willing to do that. So, yeah, but Alex, her mother suffering through domestic violence and all that, and they living in women's shelters. I understand that. We give her sympathy, but she basically pictured every, like Rick, for every guy who wronged her mom, it's basically Rick, and that's where her rage came. She could have easily confessed. I mean, she actually figured that she might as well just keep it a secret. After all, she got Paige's friend group. Number 8 is Emma. I know you're saying Emma is higher or lower. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I think she's number 8. I could have easily put her at number 7 because of the stuff she did at the start of season 4, but honestly, I can't do it. So, Emma is a villain, especially in the start of season 4. You know, she and Chris have broken up, and she's actually finds out from Manny that Chris and Liberty might hook up. And Emma says, I don't want that to happen. And Manny says, okay, well, you go get Chris back. I'll help you. That's not what I mean. What do you mean? I mean, if Chris states Liberty, what does that say about me? And Manny blows her off. I get it. I'm like, Emma, you do these causes. You do a lot of stuff that pisses people off, and you don't give a crap what people think. Now you care about what people think of you? So basically, Manny and Liberty both blow Emma off. Emma decides to go into Paige's clique to try to win friends and to help get rid of Rick when Raditch basically insults her, saying, stay out of this stupid crusade. Yeah, this is not one of your stupid crusades. Are you fucking nuts, Raditch? I swear he is. But anyhow, that's the thing. But anyway, Emma, got in. And then she realized her Orange Ribbon campaign is basically not being used for the cause that she was hoping for. It was just basically to bully Rick. So she tries to stop it. She does think about upsetting Rick's check to help domestic violence and all that, but Alex rips it up, and then Emma tries to rip Alex a new one. Emma tries to prove her loyalty to Paige's clique by tripping Rick, and then realizes that he's been beat up for no good reason, so she quote unquote protects him and basically gets shunned by everybody. The only people she's close to are the Quiz Bowl team of Rick, Toby, and Heather Sinclair. It's weird. Two guys who creep out on Emma, have a crush on Emma, and the famous unseen character who is some people thought was actually a new split personality of Paige. Doubt that highly. Regardless of that, Heather gets replaced by Jimmy. Emma's still in the principal team. Unfortunately, Rick wouldn't take no for an answer. His obsession for Emma was terrible, and practically Emma had to tell him that I pitied you, get a clue. And then Rick went after Emma after shooting Jimmy. And then, of course, Sean saves her life. She runs to Sean on the Monday after the shooting and thanks him. And then accompanies him to Wasaga Beach when Sean leaves for Degrassi. Leaves Degrassi for Wasaga to deal with his PTSD. And all that. There's some helpful things. And yeah, Sean definitely would not have been a villain. Yeah, he told Jay and Spitter not to go to Raditch when their cars got spray painted and all that. But how was he supposed to know that Jay and Spitter would have gone bonkers and all that? He never would have known. He even thought that when he shot Rick, he was going to get in trouble by the cops. But, I mean, Sean would have been stopped from leaving Toronto in the first place. He would have been investigated. I think the police would have told him to stay back and all that. There was no way he was going to get in trouble. But, anyhow, Emma is upset when Sean goes to Wasaga. She seems to not want a guy. And then during Drama Club with Dracula, she seems distracted a lot. Jay tries to help her out. And unfortunately, Emma goes through the ravine one too many times. She actually gets to be aggressive towards Jay and thinks she's got her power back. But when the gonorrhea attack outbreak happens and she's outed, in a sense, Emma basically is upset. Nate wouldn't kiss her during Dracula, and then basically she tells Jay, you gave me a social disease. And all that. And then, the rest of the season, she was basically a background character. And all that. So, yeah. So yeah, Emma kind of was a villain in the Rick Murray situation, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, she's she didn't take it as far as most people did. Number 7 is Rick's parents. I have to say it. Rick's parents definitely deserve to be number 7 on this list. Reason being is that, they're the ones who basically coddled Rick and all that. they basically contributed to Rick's mentality. I mean, Rick's mom is the pillar of the family. His father is a traveling salesman and all that. Rick resents that. His mother basically says that, he wants to spend time with you, but he's got a job. And then she basically fawns over Rick in a sense. I think that Rick basically told his parents something far from the truth. They believed him, and that's why they pulled him out of school and all that. Some say he got expelled. I doubt that highly because it was off school grounds, and I don't think Raj would have done anything about it. Nevertheless, I think that a lot of people say she should have told Rick to get out of Degrassi. But she did say in Time Stands Still Part 1, saying she wanted Rick to go to a new school. And Rick says, "You worry too much, mother." So anyway, Rick's mom basically kind of coddled him and all that. She refused to believe a lot of things. The visitation, she was awkward and all that. Rick's dad was nowhere to be seen, although I keep thinking that's Rick's dad. But the fact of the matter is that they coddled him. And let's not forget, too, that, Rick's his gun was easily accessible. He thought it was not accessible to Rick, but Rick knew everything. And he knew where the gun was. And I think Rick's dad had to pay a price for it, either a fine or jail time. And they may have left Toronto because of all the judgment. All right, so here we go. We did have a tie for fifth. Well, of course, fourth in the poll, but we did have a tie for fifth. So, because my parameter is the season 4 villain and not just the Rick Murray situation, number 6 is Raditch. Yeah, like I said, that, the season 4 villainy. I'm going through all the season, not just half the season. So Raditch, quote unquote, loses out on 5th place. He will be number 6 on this list. So, anyhow, why is he a villain? Well, simple fact. He allowed Rick to come back to Degrassi kind of with no strings attached. Even though Rick says he's going to therapy, people don't believe him. Raditch unfortunately suffered through a massive burnout, if you will. Seasons 1 and 2 of Next Gen, he was okay. Season 2, he comforted Craig about his dad's death and all that. And understood everything. And let Craig just get out of the system. Season 3, he started to get a little bit more uptight. And then Season 4, he kind of gets awkward. There is a scene in the season opener of Season 4 when Ashley and Craig are talking that Raditch is confronted by Mr. Armstrong about the budget. And Raditch says, "I don't have the money for the budget. But as soon as I get it, I'll make sure everyone gets their supplies." And Armstrong's like, "I need those supplies yesterday." Raditch's like, "What am I supposed to do?" So anyway, that could have been big. But anyway, Raditch in a stupid deleted scene. Why was that scene deleted? That would be perfect. Marco and Alex ask Raditch to reverse the decision to let Rick back. And all he says is, "Terry's a private school. I can't talk about affairs. And I appreciate concerns." They're upset that Rick's back because he's bad to women. And Raditch says, he doesn't have a criminal record. And if you don't have a criminal record, you can study at my schools. Simple as that. Like, he's got a point, but is he trying to duck answers? So anyhow, he tells Emma not to get involved in the Rick situation because it's not one of your stupid crusades. Are you nuts? I swear to God that Emma, in the back of her mind, it's not the foremost reason why she did the Orange Ribbon campaign. I mean, to make friends and to get Rick out. But number 3, in a sense, is Raditch badmouthing her. And when Raditch badmouths Emma, she takes it personally. And basically gets under Raditch's skin. And that's what happened. I think it's kind of like Fight for Your Right Season 2. With the genetically modified food things. Emma just basically was upset at Raditch. And it could be that Raditch is upset that Emma refused to bow to him. And is carrying some blackness. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, he allowed Rick back to Degrassi. He didn't take the bullying seriously. I mean, you could also blame the teachers, too. But they definitely missed out on the top 10. And, of course, Raditch not listening to Rick's cries for help after Jimmy was put on the Quizable team instead of Heather. But Raditch is a concrete thinker. Where's the proof? Rick has little proof. He says he doesn't like me. And makes no qualms about it. He doesn't say the magic words bullying. And I think if Rick said something, Raj would have had to take action. But Rick stupidly left that out of the equation. And Raj says, come back to me when something serious happens. Of course, Raj could have made things easier by understanding Rick, or even saying, I need proof. Give me some proof and I'll help you. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And then you know what happened with Rick. Snake and Raditch have a couple of arguments. The first one was a deleted scene after um, Spinner got caught clucking at Rick. Raditch puts him to 3:30 for a talk, and then Snake tells Raditch, that's your best chance with Rick. Send him home. He can't do any more harm. And then basically Snake gets under his skin and he says, making friends is not part of the curriculum. This is not preschool. Well, daycare, but preschool is just as powerful. And then, of course, in the media room, Raj wants Snake to go through Rick's emails, but Snake basically said, where's this hindsight? And Raj says, I have 700 students to worry about. How was I supposed to know when was going to come to the school angry about spilled paint? So basically, they have a shouting match until Spike breaks it up. And, you know, it's like, well, will Radish redeem himself? Did he? No, not even close. The aftermath, we learned he kiboshes Dracula's, Degrassi's Dracula because it's too gory because of what happened with the shooting. But it was a campy version. It was not complete to the source material. He just wanted to study musicals so that Degrassi could be painted in a positive light. I understand that because you know how the news is portraying Degrassi, but still, you have to be better. And I mean, look at it this way. I mean, Radich kind of went overboard and all that, and he was not too happy with everyone just telling him off. So, yeah. But of course, you know, JT and Liberty take him to task. He sends him to Monday detention, and then the next episode, he's gone. He's been reassigned. Was he fired? Possibly. Was he reassigned? Possibly as well. Of course, he takes it in good nature, saying all good things must come to an end. They at least give him a send off and don't black hole him. Well, we don't know what happens to Raj afterwards. Well, we all know about Dan Woods actually having issues because he had to go from LA with Chop Cut Rebuild to Toronto for Degrassi. And it was a strain on both shows. So he decided to choose Chop Cut Rebuild, but said that if Chop Cut Rebuild fails, he would go back to Degrassi for a few episodes. Didn't happen. But I think in my mind that Raj was upset with the education system and figured he was being put under the bus, so he left the education racket saying that the school board should be blamed. And yeah, maybe the school board should be a villain, but Raj was the main person who could have stopped everything. Number 5 is Spitter. Reason being is what happens all of season 4. So not just the Rick situation, but he was a massive prick at the start. Of course, the start of season 4 is when Paige, you know, goes through her rape trial with Dean and all that. Spinner convinces her to go through with it, even though that Paige kind of has reservations because of all the talk and all that. She's scared that Spinner's not going to want to be with her after what has happened. So that's that. And then you got yourself the fact that, you know, Spinner kind of had his car crashed by Paige into Dean's car as revenge, and you know he has to pay it off. Paige is put through the ringer, given a year's suspended license. Yeah, her license has been suspended for a year, and she has to work at the movie theater to pay Spinner for his car. Unfortunately, Spinner tries to take advantage of it, being a prick, and he actually openly flirting with Manny while he was dealing with Paige. Because of the fact that Paige has to work for the car for Spinner, it gives Spinner more time to be closer to Manny, and thinks that Manny's more fun than Paige, and all that. And of course, let's not forget about the whole crapola with the Rick situation. How he was one of the last 3 bullies to go after Rick. He was there from the start. He, Jay, and Alex were there from the start. And the fact is that, you know, Spinner did a lot of bad things and all that. He busted Toby's lip and all that. That got Rick to tell Jimmy all these things, and Jimmy switched sides. You can tell that Spinner decides to brag about the prank towards Jimmy and Craig. It was the stupidest thing to do. Why would Spinner brag about it? He thinks he made a masterful plan and that Rick is gone from Degrassi. He and Jimmy have a literal fight. Of course, in the deleted scene, they're walking together. They're not even at the principal's office. What the fuck? So anyway, uh, Spinner clucks at Rick like a chicken, and then that's probably why he says Raditch knows, because take that deleted scene into context is that Spinner realizes that maybe Raditch knows about the whole thing. And then, of course, Jay convinces him to go after Jimmy and basically make Rick believe Jimmy's bullshit. I mean, believe their bullshit. Spinner is an unwilling accomplice. He wants to confess his crime. Jay tells him to shut up and all that. Spinner has massive guilt racked up. He couldn't even visit Jimmy in the hospital without being triggered. So he tried to keep himself busy and avoid the thing, but Jimmy comes back after rehab and all that. Well, after spending 3 months away. And Spinner tries his best to help Jimmy out with the situation and then decides Jimmy needs to know the truth about the painted feathers. He gets ostracized by the school, and practically he decides to come clean and implicate Jay and face an expulsion. He does come back a few episodes later wanting his credits back, but all Hasselhoff could do is give him summer school. He's upset by it. He decides to want to burn the school for burning him, but Jay stops him, and then Spinner takes the summer school, and that's how season 5's redemption arc happened. He needed a redemption arc. No matter what you think, should he have told Jimmy? He needed to alleviate his guilt, and it worked. He was much better. Okay, number 4 on the list is Dean, because of what he got away with Paige and was swarmy as fuck. As I said, remember, this is season 4. This is not all Rick situation. This happens. So season 2, it started. Dean gets Paige into his dorm room, and then, they have sex, and Paige doesn't feel comfortable with it, and, was taken advantage of by Dean. She goes through a lot of problems, and then season 4, at the premiere, she found out that her case is going to trial. Paige isn't so sure. Spinner tells her she has to go through with it. Dean's lawyer basically grills Paige on everything, but Paige stands strong and all that. The judge gives Paige credit for her testimony, but unfortunately says that with lack of evidence, I can't convict anyone. Dean's free to go. It's even so bad that Dean's lawyer looks shocked and all that. She wasn't on. She was worried that Paige was telling the truth. But of course, Dean basically bragged about it to Paige, and then Paige gets Dean kicked out of his fraternity, and then decides to crash Spinner's car into Dean's car. Spinner was willing to take the rap, but Paige decides to take the rap and tells Dean outside the police station, I'm something big. I'm gonna confess. That's what good people do when they do bad stuff. But Dean doesn't bat an eye. What the fuck? So that's what happened. That's the last we see of Dean, and the last we should be seeing of Dean. And all that. He got away with it. Unfortunately, it is a common occurrence that basically lack of evidence can ruin a case like that. I mean, wasn't Miss Sauve's stuff admissible? I don't know. Number 3 is Olander, because of taking advantage of Paige in the relationship. So Paige went through the ringer with guys. Dean getting away with raping her, Spinner flirting with Manny while she was working to fix his car, and then Rick coming back into her life. Olander was the next day. So she finds someone that's Olander after Spinner and Paige break up. So she likes Olander from the yoga class, but finds out that he's a student teacher, but they still have a relationship. Paige still goes through with it. I mean, after all, she was not in a good place involved in the Rick situation. So anyhow, Olander and Paige get investigated because Manny outs Paige's relationship with Olander in front of Hatzalakos. And then we find out, there's a Monday talk, and worst of all, Paige and Olander were spotted with by Snake, excuse me. So anyway, Snake finds out and all that, and Paige decides she needs to leave Degrassi, or at least leaves Snake's class. But Hatzakos tells her that it will go as a black mark on your college application and all that. Paige says, let's just get out of this mess. And then Simpson said, I know what happened and all that. The worst part is that it seems that Olander basically told everyone that Paige was the obsessed one in this relationship. She was the one. So he basically was throwing her under the bus. But unfortunately, that that didn't happen. Olander finally decided to come clean, and he loses his teaching license, obviously. And Simpson was going to be on Paige's side. I could see that. I could see that. You know, Snake was upset with Olander taking advantage of a student. He was going to try to help Paige out. He wasn't going to hurt Paige. So anyway, Paige takes this as a good sign because she and Olander can actually date. But Olander heads to the Yukon, and early in season 5, he gives Paige drugs and breaks up with her. So basically, that turns Paige into a lesbian out of all of a sudden with Alex. It's like out of left field. I mean, Paige's love for guys. Well, she's pretty much bisexual, if anything, because she goes with Griffin. So anyway, yeah. Number 2 is Jay. Obviously, it would be Jay. It's got to be it, Jay, for what he did in the Rick situation. So, of course, Jay decides to join the crusade to get Rick out of Degrassi. But unlike Spinner, unlike Paige, unlike Alex, he doesn't have a good enough reason. Practically, his reason is to cause mayhem and all that. Practically every season from 3 to 7, at least once, he is the devil on someone's shoulders. Season 3 is Sean. Season 4, Spinner and Alex and a few other people, even Emma, getting Emma out of control. Season 5, it was JT. Season 6 was Sean and Peter for Smidget. So yeah, he was basically there to cause trouble. Some people think that Jay's a figment of people's imagination. I doubt that highly. But the fact of the matter for Jay is that he was always going to be a prick. And as I said, in season 4, he joins the Red Crusade not because he cares about Terry, but he wants to cause mayhem and all that. Maybe get into the friend group, I don't know. But nevertheless, well, mostly because Alex was there too. So Jay, bugs the crap out of him. He sets up the painted feathers thing, and he says that everything will work out, and it does. But of course, Spinner comes to him saying Radish knows because Radish wants to talk to Spinner at 3:30 and all that. And Jay comes up with the plan to make sure that Jimmy was the mole and all that to save Spinner's hide and all that, and make sure Jimmy and Rick weren't friends anymore. And it leads to Rick shooting Jimmy, and basically Spinner wants to come clean, but Jay basically tells him not to because either if Jimmy's alive or dead, he's still not going to be Spinner's friend and all that. And then he tells Alex the same thing back in black. Alex wants to come clean and talk to somebody, but Jay's like, be careful who you talk to and all that. Because, all that. And he causes trouble at Wasaga. He comes with Sean, Ellie, Emma to Wasaga Beach. And all that. Sean wants to confront his parents over stuff. So, anyhow, he makes fun of Tyler, the boy that Sean deafened and made him go to Toronto for Wasaga. And basically, he was just a massive prick, especially in secret, taking advantage of a weakened Emma, who kind of is still under the impression she needs to improve on the Rick situation. She has some guilt. I talked about feelings and all that. He gives Emma a effort in the ravine and all that, and thought that Emma was pure and all that. But Emma says, no, I'm not that pure, in a sense. So basically, Jay kind of gets Emma to talk about the situation with Spike and Snake. I think partially she wants to confess her role in the Rick situation, saying she doesn't deserve any credit. Anyway, so Jay, pushes Spinner and Alex not to talk about things. Unfortunately, uh, confesses everything to Jimmy, and then and then Jay said that, Spinner couldn't keep his mouth closed and all that. Of course, he gets implicated. Spinner did the right thing, implicating Jay. Jay doesn't give a crap and all that. He doesn't try to redeem himself. He's allowed back at Degrassi in season 5, but he refuses to because he was upset that the school had no better person to blame but Spinner and all that. So yeah, Jay still hangs out with Spinner until Spinner finally cracks and decides to kick him out. And Jay tries to better himself, I guess, to try to get Spinner and Alex back in his life. And number one, calm down. You knew it was Rick. You knew it was Rick. I knew it was Rick. My cat knows it's Rick. But anyhow, yeah, Rick had to be the number one villain in season 4 and all that. Because why not? Season 3, he was terrible to Terry, psychologically and physically abusing her. We all know about that. Putting her head on the rock. All that, being pulled out of school by his parents for fearing for his safety. He basically was crying crocodile tears at them. They believed his every word. And Rick thought that he would be okay coming back to Degrassi. They'd probably forgive and forget. Oh no, you're not going to forgive him or forget him. He basically thinks he's high above everyone's station. He has Raditch at helping him out, so he thinks he can rule the school. And then the Orange Ribbon campaign comes and he gets shoved into lockers and, beaten up to a sense that they won't get too much trouble. He actually manages to fall for Emma because Emma protected him from the bullies and all that, even though Emma said it was the right thing to do and all that. And he refuses to take the hint to leave Degrassi from Emma. So anyhow, Emma is not too happy that Rick's coming back. But anyhow, what are you going to do? So Rick basically shows up at the car wash and all that, and Jimmy points at a hose at his back. Foreshadowing. Am I right? Anyhow, Rick gets bullied and all that. He doesn't retaliate until he gets his hat thrown into the dumpster, and Jimmy and Spinner actually dump him in the dumpster. Then the next day, supposedly with new clothes, he decides to circle X his tormentors' cars and all that. Jay and Spinner and Alex know that it's Rick and need to go after Rick, but are told by Sean not to go near Raditch because, then they'll have to implicate themselves. So anyhow, they decide on a plan. Jay, Rick doesn't understand it. Of course, he gets paid and feathered. He gets creepy towards Emma, saying, "This is for you," and all that. Unfortunately, though, he gets got. Emma does try to calm Rick down, but he ends up kissing her and basically said, "I thought you loved me. I painted you, get a clue." So Rick goes to his parents' house. Nobody's home, so he takes a gun out and doesn't know what to do with it. So he takes it to the school. Toby tells him that Ratchet's going to find everything out, but Rick, I think, was dismissive of that comment. And then decides to go after Paige. No one confronts Rick. He still has his paint and feathers stuff on. He could have at least changed clothes. And then he decides to slowly raise the gun out of his backpack, but Paige tells him that, everything was childish. And then Rick realizes he needs to apologize for what he did to Terry and says that Paige could not have done it. He puts the gun back in his locker, and then, of course, Jay and Spinner trick him into going after Jimmy and all that. Rick does have a sense of remorse in a sense because when he shoots Jimmy, he does turn his head back and shoots him blindly and manages to get Jimmy in the spine and all that. If Rick really wanted to go after Jimmy, he would have shot at point blank, but he didn't. And then Rick conveniently finds Emma, Sean, and Toby and confronts Emma and wants to go after her. Sean realizes that Rick has a gun, and then they have a gunfight. A fight for the gun, and then a shot goes off, and then we learn Rick is dead for Rachel, the nosy reporter, and, he's dead. All that. Of course, everyone was debating what to do about the Rick situation. Everyone had a big part to play in Rick's bullying and all that. I think if Rick had not retaliated, he definitely would have won out in the end. He would have basically got everyone else, but they wanted to show about this. But here's the thing. Rick's death actually helped Degrassi. I did a Degrassi Unpopular Opinion years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, about the fact that Rick dying was actually the best thing for Degrassi. Because of the fact that, if Rick was alive, was put on trial, Paige's clique would have been in trouble. Emma would have been in trouble. Yeah, like Spinner, Jay, and Alex definitely would have been in trouble. Raditch would have been in trouble. There would have been criminal investigations on lots of people and basically a lot of punishments for coming and all that. And Degrassi would not have been the same. The school would have been torn apart. by Rick being alive. So yeah, Rick's death was powerful. It helped characters out because, it kept the characters on the show, so to speak. But, what can you do? Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.